Nice.
Oh my goodness, those tech issues we were talking about are continuing.
No.
I'm trying to slowly fade it down over here, and it is just like not happening.
It's like keep dancing.
Right? We keep on dancing. Hello, LaTanya, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Christine, so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
Y'all, for our regular listeners that are tuning in, if you're watching live, you know that Shannon, the second half of Women Connected in Wisdom, is not here. Today we have a special guest, LaTanya Rawles, who is going to be our co-host and has some, we're going to do it different today. So Shannon is out and about. She's taking care of herself with wellness, and she is going to be gone today, and hopefully will be joining us next week. But in the meantime, we have LaTanya. And LaTanya, let's do the show's official opening, and then I will read your bio, and then we'll jump into it. Does that sound good today?
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So y'all, let me pull up and we'll do our regular intro for our podcast. Here we go. Hey y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
And I am LaTanya Rawles, and I take women on a journey of self-care, self-love, and empowerment to help them find their voice, stand in their power, and rule the world.
I love it. And together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness. Join us every week for weekly intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationship, and wellness. So just that short introduction, LaTanya, says to folks why, like, you're my co-host today, but let me give them your full, so they know the awesomeness that is on this stage. LaTanya Rawles has always had a passion to help others. She naturally gravitated towards work that allowed her to be of service. She is an Army veteran. Thank you for your service. With a background as a medical assistant, master cosmetologist, and a life insurance agent. I love that breadth of experience. Even though these positions were ways to be in service and support others, they were not aligned with her gifts. She didn't find her true passion until she found herself on the brink of divorce and severely depressed. Those events caused her to take a long look, and it cut off. You want to finish that?
A long look inside at myself, and it helped me discover who I really am and to follow my zone of genius to help other people go through what I went through, because you're not alone, like I wasn't. So there you go.
I love it. Self-care, self-love. Will you show folks that are watching your t-shirt today? Will you stand up and show them?
Don't have a great day, create a great day.
I love it. I love it so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here today. Today is a special show. Today is our season 6 recap, where we generally talk about all the 8 dimensions of wellness, and we shout out our guests that we had last season, which last season was a special one, which we'll get into in just a second. And today, listeners, we're also going to talk about LaTanya's summit that just started. It started yesterday?
Yesterday, yes.
Started yesterday, called Remember Who You Are. And it's such an alignment with our Women Connected in Wisdom values about self-care, self-love, and, bringing experts, most of them women, together to uplift our voices and talk about how do we do this?
Yes. And, just like I said, it came because the common thread through like almost all the speakers that I spoke to was like, we were kind of feeling like something was off, and then the universe just stopped us. They said, you're going to stop here. And it forced us to kind of stop and look inward. And once we did that, we kind of were able to change things around us and actually follow our passion and create these ripple effects. And I mean, I met Christine through that, like,
right?
Absolutely worth it. Right. So Yeah, that's the whole premise of it. Just knowing how important it is to make yourself a priority.
Right? It's so much. So when we talk on the show, LaTanya, we talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness. We talk about, I mean, and they're all interconnected, right?
Yeah.
So last season, we started off talking about environmental wellness. So,
Okay.
you know, environmental wellness is not, it is nature, it is our, but it's also it's our inner space around us. It's our external space. It is, what are we creating and co-creating around us to support our wellness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So last season, it was Shannon and I talking about it, and we had a blast. One of our previous guests in this arena, in this category, I guess I should say, was Melody Lebaron. And I just want to give a shout out to Melody because I am taking her Shine 2022 class, and it is phenomenal. And I will put a link to it in our show notes, because LaTanya, she is an organizer. She was a professional organizer for 20 years.
Wow.
And she combines like feng shui and other women empowerment practices, along with professional organizing tips. It's amazing. And as somebody who is classified as neurodivergent and ADD, organization has been my Achilles heel for my entire life. And she lays it out simply. And so I just have to say that I know she wasn't a guest last season. She was a guest the season previous, but it's phenomenal. And so I'm going to put her link in our notes so folks can, if you're needing support around organization, decluttering. She also does a lot of grief and loss work, which is interesting because she talks about, like, when we go through grief and loss, often our systems shut down that keep us organized and we can get overwhelmed. Like if we've lost a parent, if we've lost a relative and their stuff has come into our house, like there's just so much attached to it.
Right.
So when you think about environmental wellness, what do you think about?
So immediately I started thinking about the things directly like inside your home. Is your dresser a mess? Do you have clothes all over the floor? Like for me, if my vanity is in disarray, then so is my mind at that moment. Like my kids know, like if mom's vanity is neat, it's okay to go in there. So I feel like it's just an external representation of how I'm feeling on the inside. And so that's how I view it.
Right.
I look at
I think that's a great, I mean, I think it's, and I think some people, like, it's really natural for the organization piece. And some people it's like a struggle. And it's like, how do we set ourselves up for success? How do we, and also, you know, we were talking about this in her class on Monday, checking in with our bodies, because you and I've had this conversation, and regular listeners to our show know I'm all about, like, what's our body wisdom around it. But also when you walk into a room, how does it make you feel? Do you love it? Do you love the colors? Do you love what you've created? And I've been having this conversation a lot with clients lately. What worked for us in our 20s or our 30s or even our 40s, for those of us that are in our 50s, may not work anymore, right? We're at a new stage. We have all this wisdom and knowledge that we may look at things through a different lens. So it's okay to check in with ourselves and our environment on a regular basis to say, is this still working for me? Do I love it?
That's fascinating.
And if not, make some tweaks, you know?
I come from a home where my mother would she'd remove the furniture around in every way you could think of. And then once she couldn't think of a new way to move it, she wanted new furniture. And it was just like, you know, I'm just thinking now what he's saying, like, she was just like, oh, I don't like this anymore. Let's move it, until it no longer worked. And then she got rid of it. So maybe that's what was going on.
Well, she was shifting that energy, right?
Yeah.
She was shifting that energy around in the house. Well, I look at your background, because your background is new to me today, right? I love that you have the greenery and the plants and you have your book. Like, I'm like, oh, I want to go hang out in that room. Like, that's a room full of life, you know?
Yeah. And just find things that make you feel good, I guess. I mean, that's the whole point of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And things that bring you joy. You know, I'm a big joy. I love joy. I made a comment on a friend's Facebook post today. She's like, you're a joy follower. And I'm like, yes, I'm a joy follower. Like, if I can access joy in my body, I am here for it, you know? And so, yeah. And I think that's in all the dimensions of wellness. So another category that we talked about last season was intellectual wellness. So intellectual wellness, LaTanya, when we talk about it, is about like, what are you learning? What are you growing? Like, we often think when we finish school, we're done, right? But intellectual wellness, like, what areas of your life are you stimulating your brain, right? What's happening? Oh, Jenna Banks is saying hi, ladies. Hi, Jenna Banks. Jenna Banks was, we'll come back to intellectual wellness. Jenna Banks she did our social wellness. And she has a new book coming out called Love Me More. Did I get that right, Jenna? Put that in the comments if I didn't completely get it right. And she is,
and you can
Jenna is launching that on International Women's Day. So that is coming out right around the corner, like in 2 weeks.
I think you can pre-order now, if I'm not mistaken. Yep,
you can.
on Amazon.
Yeah,
Love Me More. I Love Me More.
I Love Me More.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I Love Me More. And we will put a link to that in our show notes. I know that when Jenna was on our show, we had such a good conversation. And then since she's been on our show, I went to her Jenna Banks show and did a podcast. So I will also, when that comes out, I'll put a link on our social media listeners so you can check out the Jenna Banks show, because we had a blast. Yeah.
And let's not forget that you introduced me to Jenna, and Jenna will be on our summit, or my summit. So more Jenna.
Right.
So I'm excited. Yes.
This is a good time to tell folks about your summit, so we can make these connections. Yeah. Okay. Tell folks what you're talking about.
Well, Christine will be on our summit, and so will the fabulous Jenna Banks, and it's called Do You Remember You? Secrets to Rediscovering Who You Are, so you can ditch those labels, rewrite your story, and make yourself a priority. So we just kind of get deep with the things that are holding us back and how we can be the source to change all that. So, yes.
Well, and trying not to be, tooting our horns, but there's some fabulous speakers on this summit, y'all.
Just saying, hello, like, this way. You, Jenna, so fabulous. Christine, the connector.
You do such a great job of facilitating it, and we just had such a great conversation that happened this week. That this is the magic of Women Connected in Wisdom, right? As I'm sitting here, and Jenna's on, and LaTanya's on, and we have each had some deep, powerful conversations with each other and our communities in the last week that we just need more of in this world. Like,
I keep telling people, like, every speaker that I'm speaking to is like, I'm having another breakthrough. I'm just like leveling up in myself just by having a conversation. And it's that simple, just by talking to people that are like-minded. And even when you were saying about going into the room and asking you, like, how does it feel in my body? I was like, I never thought about that. I'm just focusing on this is here, it needs to be there. But how do I feel in my body about the way things are situated? So it's like, conversation is just so amazing. It helps you open up your whole world.
Well, and oh my gosh, Marie Kondo, is that, I think that's how you say her name, when she says that you pick up an object and you ask it if you love it, that is connected to your body wisdom, right? Because you're not going to know. Well, you could know. Your brain, like your head up, could just say, yes, I love it, or yes or no. But some people are like, how do I know? Well, how you know is dropping down into your body. And does it feel warm? Do you feel good? Like, do you, how does it make you feel? Yes, Jenna Banks, we are more powerful together.
I can't wait for her to explain her powerful. That was so fabulous, the way she broke that down. We'll keep that. That's Jenna's story.
Right. And you're going to have to go to the summit to check that out. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So this checking in with ourselves, paying attention. Jenna and I on her show had a fabulous conversation about how we distinguish, like, is this good for me or is this not? And where does it land in our emotions and in our bodies, and really tuning in and tending to ourselves. Like, that so much as women, often we're so busy tending to other people, or we're so busy doing, that we blow past some of those indicators until, like you said, like, there's a major life event. There's a crash, whether it's a health crash or a mental health crash. Like, something, we run up against that wall. Often as women, we run past the wall because we're too busy to even stop that we banged into the wall. And then we fall down a few steps along the way.
It's like the universe is always whispering to us. And if we're not listening, it becomes a yell and a scream or a bullhorn. And then it's like depression, sickness, and that's the bullhorn. Like, listen to me.
Right? It is so very true. So very true. Our guest for occupational wellness was Julie Fouch this last season, and she was talking about some of the same stuff with wisdom in women, and that women's circles, which we know, you and I know for sure, like how the power of bringing people together, women, men, but women's circles have been such a big part of my life, that just connecting and supporting each other and helping us to clear blocks, helping us to really hold each other accountable, but with gentle ways. But yeah, we had some great conversations around that, about our occupation, which this is what you do too with women, right? With your coaching.
Right. I mean, I'm kind of a blunt person to a degree, but I establish this connection, this relationship. But like, if I'm telling you something, if it may come off a bit harsh, like, it's all from love. So it's positive, or feedback is neutral. It's not positive or negative. So it's all from love, but sometimes it's hard to hear things, and there's no like easy way to put some truths that you get to sit with and accept. But some people, they need that little nudge, and just know the accountability all comes from love. And I love that, like the support and the love.
Right. I was part of a women's circle a couple of weeks ago, and we did an exercise about projections. And the way it started, like that we all have negative projections and positive projections. And I won't go into the whole exercise because it's one of my teacher's exercises. But what really touched me about it, not only was it powerful and it really worked, but we started with thank you. We were in partnership. Thank you for your love and support for me to see this clearly. And it was just so powerful that when we show up for each other, when we show up and support each other, the magic that can happen.
And when you have like a space like that, and you can be vulnerable and be raw and speak your truth around people that they see you, that's just a great feeling, to feel like someone sees you, and you can tell them whatever, because you know that they probably went through something the same. Like, we've all had bad things or negative things in our past, and just know, like, it's okay. We still love you. We still accept you. You don't need to be ashamed. And when someone's like worst of the worst, you're like so connected to them.
Right.
Like, that vulnerability is like a superpower. So,
Brene Brown always talks about it. Like, vulnerability is the key. And it's not easy, y'all. Like, it's that throat clenching, heart, like your shoulder, like, am I going to say that? Right?
Christy,
even I feel in my jaw.
I physically like repel, like my body's like, keep it in. Don't let the tear out. Don't tell that story. And I have to, now I'm like, no, like, this is, somebody needs to hear this, and it's not about me, it's about them. And I'm not alone. But everything that I think it's a secret, it's so bad. If I say it, there's going to be so many people to step forward and say, me too.
Me too. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure being an Army veteran, like, that part is trained. I mean, I'm just guessing because my dad and my grandpa were Army veterans. And so I was raised, it's in my lineage. And, that whole feeling thing, that whole, like, you suck it up and suck it in and keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, you're trained in that, right?
And you're brainwashed too. I mean, and as a woman in that, you don't want to. I see what happens when people start crying. And I was like, nope, they'll never see me cry. You don't want to be that one that has all the drill sergeants in your face and you kind of just take it through. But I had that problem before the military. It just definitely cemented that for me. But now I get to let it go. I told my husband, my sons, hey, I'm a crier now. Like, I'm going to cry. You're going to have to just get used to it.
That is funny that you say that today, because we were just playing with this in an interplay class. I'm taking this fabulous. So Interplay is having their 2022 playathon. And so you get to pop into different classes and different instructors from all over the nation. So I'm popping into this one where we're going through Atlas of the Heart, Brene Brown's latest book. And we're using Interplay to do it. So it's kind of like a book study. We're reading and we're playing with the material. So today we were talking about being sad, like that in our culture, that sadness, we often don't give it enough space, and that sadness is important, right? So we were doing this exercise about going back and forth, talking about what do we do when we're sad, right? And I realized, you saying that about not being a crier, I am a crier in the fact that I tear up about sentimental stuff. I tear up, but if it's really close to my heart, like I hold it close, and I have to trick myself into crying. Like I have to put on a sad music, or I have to put on a sad show. Like once I start, I'm okay, but that block is so real about
Yeah, I feel it in my gut, like really before it actually, I'm feeling my throat where my body is like, take it back,
right?
and I'm like, why do I do this? And I used to say, oh, I'm not an emotional person, I don't cry, I don't. And I'm like, I am a human, I am emotional, we're all emotional. I've been
And why is that a
conditioned.
bad thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I've been conditioned to feel like it's not okay for me to show my emotions, or it's a
Right,
weakness, or whatever the story is. And I'm like, no, when I see somebody crying, I'm drawn to them.
right.
And
Yeah.
after you cry, you feel so good. It's like such a release.
Right? You probably don't know this about me. I don't know if we talked about it on the TeleSummit, but I have two 2.5-year-old nibblings.
You did.
So they are my
I love the
twin
nibbling.
nephews. Yep. Well, my sister didn't find out until they arrived if they were boys or girls. So the non-gender term for that is nibblings, because they're siblings, but it's non-gender. So we've called them nibblings since they were little. Some people call them niblets because they like corn, I guess. But yeah. So my nibblings are 2.5, and they are being raised where they can express their emotion. And they're so, I mean, some of it's just hysterical, LaTanya, because like we'll be FaceTiming and we'll say, Tia, I sad. I can't talk right now. And
Oh.
I'm like, okay. But he just names it. And the power of naming. Now, of course, he's 2.5. So, 30 seconds later, he's on to something else. But just that he gets to name it, and he gets to cry, and he gets to like say, I'm sad. And, I think, whew, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
wondering, like,
powerful.
if we left that space open as adults to be able to let the emotions come and say, I feel sad, and just because if you watch a 2-year-old, you'll see them go through all the emotions, and
Right.
and I'm like, what if we did that? Let them come, feel them, let them go, instead of holding and then turning
Until
it
the
on.
geyser comes.
Yeah, then you create all these vices to deal with this anger or whatever.
Woo.
Wouldn't that
Yeah.
be something?
And just name it. Or name, that was the other thing we were playing with today. Name when something hurts. Like, ouch.
Yes.
Like, ouch, that hurt. Like, I use that a lot in anti-racism work, and we set the container. But what if that was the container walking around? Like if somebody said something, you were like, ouch. And you didn't have to stop and address it at that moment if you didn't want to. Like, but you just acknowledged, whoa, that hurt. Instead of looking up and there's 30 years of hurt. Like, or really like if we're hanging out with somebody that we get those ouches often, like how much quicker would we realize it if every time we were like, ouch, ouch, ouch.
I'm
Like,
saying that a lot.
right?
Let's make it a thing. Like, can we normalize
I
like
love it.
expressing our feelings and letting them come? And
We are culture changers. Like we are change makers, you and I. So
yes,
yes, we can normalize that. Yes,
I love
let's do
it.
it.
It starts with us. We create
Right?
that ripple effect.
That we're going to
I like
start to
that.
name what we're feeling. I
Yeah.
love it. So we do this in Interplay all the time where we just check in with our bodies. So, okay, we're starting right here, right in this moment, LaTanya.
Yes.
Let's just check in with our bodies and take a deep breath. And we invite our listeners to do the same and just check in and notice what feelings you're having in your body right in this moment. I am holding both grief and gratitude. I'm noticing.
I'm feeling just peace. And like I am on the right path.
I love that.
It
Yeah.
feels very peaceful and calm.
I love that. I am holding the gratitude of being in this conversation with you and being able to do this work together. I'm holding some grief from some family stuff this week that we lost a partner to a family member due to complications of COVID. And it wasn't somebody I was personally close to, but when somebody's close to a member of your family, it impacts the entire family. So when I stopped to just settle in with that, I was like, yeah, that's there. And recently lost my great aunt. And she's like, call my name. Yeah, we lost my grandfather's youngest sister, Aunt Joyce. And she was the last member of that generation. So that was a big blow for our family. And I just want to honor her. Like, I think I called her name a couple of weeks ago on the show because she was a country. She was as country as country could be. And she provided for her family. And she was funny and had a sense of humor and loved her family. And so calling Aunt Joyce's name, telling her we love you. So
thank you, Aunt Joyce.
Yeah. Yeah, LaTanya, on the show, we often talk about emotional and mental wellness. Like this last season, we had Chanda Kuritan, who was, and I think I just pronounced her name wrong. I apologize. It's Chanda Kuritan, and she is an expert on relationships, and she especially works with young women around teenage dating violence. And so we had an incredibly powerful conversation. Y'all, it took me to places I did not expect to go on air. So if you have not listened to that episode, talk about vulnerability. Like we went some places, it was like, woo, I hadn't thought about that in 30 years. And let's name what that was, right? And not surprising, like every one of us had something, as we talked about as women, something around that. Right? The statistics, unfortunately, support that dating violence, domestic violence is so prevalent in our society, and we often don't talk about it. So we had a really deep dive conversation, episode 53, with emotional and mental wellness. So trigger warning on it, and go listen to it because it was powerful.
Yeah, especially since you focus with the teenagers, because I would have, when you said that, I'm thinking about like middle school and stuff that we didn't really know what was going on or didn't think that that's what it was, like the label. And now you're like finding out later, like, whoa, that was a thing. And
right,
you don't know what you don't know, but
absolutely. Well, and what came out of that discussion too was all of us had an episode under the age of 24 when our brains were not fully developed. And like, how does that imprint on us? How does that co-create like who we are? Like, it was powerful. Like, it was like, we were like, what is happening here? Like, she pulled out some really amazing stuff. And we talk about that on the regular about emotional and mental wellness, especially like the last 2 years of this pandemic. Like almost everybody I know is on the spectrum of trauma in one way or another right now. Whether it's secondary trauma because they are holding space, or all of that, like what they're on it somehow. I'm going to pull up Jennifer Howe. Hello, Jennifer. You're awesome. And I'm glad I got to join you for 30 minutes. I have a class that begins at 2. Jennifer is an amazing educator, caregiver in Austin, Texas. Thank you. You're so welcome for the wisdom and positive vibes. Yeah.
Woo! The vibes.
Love it. I think she's probably tuning in from LinkedIn. So thanks, Jennifer, for being with us, and happy teaching in your class. She's incredible. She uses movement. She's a special ed teacher. She was doing online before online was a thing.
Before the thing.
Like before the pandemic. Everybody does online now. Yeah. It's a thing.
Especially post-pandemic.
Right. Well, and we've talked about it on the show too, about accessibility, that we hope it stays a thing. Because, I mean, the reality is it opened up the world to a lot of folks. Like I've gotten to play with people across the world that I've always wanted to play. Of course I want to go to Australia and play with my friend Trish Watts, who's an Interplay Australia. Of course I want to do that. Yeah, that probably's not in the budget for a while, right? Or yeah, I got kids in college, so that's on down the road. But I got to play with her over this pandemic and have, incredible experiences. And I think the virtual world has brought, your TeleSummit is a good example, right?
Yeah, I have people all over the world. And even like you said, like the shout out to the pandemic for that positive thing, like things that we didn't think that we could do online. We found out that yes, you can. And so it did open up a whole new world of connection and impact, community. Right. So I think it's fabulous.
Right. And I don't think we're done with it.
Oh, no.
So I know that folks are really excited to get back to in person. Me too. Like, I love speaking in front of large groups. I love holding workshops and being a facilitator. And there's nothing like being in the energy of it. Right.
Yeah.
And I see it being a version of hybrid in some ways that so we can have accessibility. Like I've had folks who live with disabilities say, I've gotten to go to things that I would never have been able to access otherwise. And I don't want to lose that. Like I have met some incredible people through these platforms. So I'm just putting that shout out, universe, all the social media, like let's make this keep
going. Yeah.
Right. So let's see. I want to make sure we covered all the factors that we did last season. So, oh my gosh, LaTanya, I don't think I knew you at this point. Last season was our 50th show and our 1 year anniversary special of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And we celebrated because we believe in celebrating, right? We work hard. We are like, we're out there, we're working hard, we're doing all the things. And we like to take a moment to take a deep breath and to celebrate. So on the 50th show, what we did is we invited folks who'd been on the show to pop in. And it was like a reunion. It was like a family reunion. And we realized the power of women being connected. We realized the power of, we know this networking. Like if you're listening on LinkedIn today, like, the power of networking. You may not like it. Like, or maybe one of those things you're like, oh, I got to go to another one of those networking events, right? But what I'm talking about is like authentic connection. Hearing each other's stories, because we all have more than one, lifting each other up, lifting each other's voices up. Like when you're like, I met you through LinkedIn. For those of y'all listening to LinkedIn, this is the power of LinkedIn, right? I met you through LinkedIn, became a speaker on your TeleSummit, and now we're talking about it. Like we're doing because it's awesome.
It is. But don't take away from the you of that, because Christine is such the connector. I didn't even get to ask her who else did she know. She rambled off probably 10 or 15 names that I couldn't write down fast enough. She was emailing she got on it. And so this is not just something that you're saying, like you do it and you be this. Yeah. Like that's what you do. And so I'm like, Christine,
when you called me connector in chief, I had to chuckle. Yes, I'm like, I need a shirt that says connector in chief. I may have to get that printed. You're talking about you're co-creating your day or creating your day. Yeah, it is one of my greatest joys. Like I love connecting people who are living their values, having meaningful work. Like Cecile, who I introduced you to, who we did the LinkedIn Live with. Cecile she does her Indigo community and does incredible anti-racism work and was one of our first guests on the podcast. We met through LinkedIn and we met each other. We did a Zoom together and we're like, okay, what work are we doing together? Because we knew we were going to be connected. We knew that we shared similar values. We knew we had an ethic of play. Like we wanted to just be in collaboration. And I think that's the thing, we often talk about on Women Connected in Wisdom is getting rid of the old myths or the old stereotypes about women not working together or women being in competition instead of collaboration. Like when we lift each other up, we all rise.
We all rise.
So it's
And the
about
ripple
like,
effect.
yeah. And shining our light on each other. Because here's the thing I also say, y'all, there's enough work for everybody.
Everybody eats. I mean,
there's enough work.
More than enough. And
right?
we need more. And that's my like passion, is helping other women find their voice so they can stand in their power and go and help and do whatever that thing is, because somebody's waiting. So,
and that's the thing, is find your own thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to do what I'm doing or what LaTanya's doing or what our friend Shannon's doing. Like find your thing. Speaking of what Shannon's doing, I cannot forget this, right? So Shannon's company, even though she's not here today, I'm giving a big old shout out because Shayla Glow is our podcast sponsor. And this is Shannon Mitchell's company. She is a young Black millennial business owner, and she's rocking it. So I always, every time I say Shayla Glow, I have to put it on, LaTanya. It's a little bit of an obsession, but it is an incredible product. She has a whole line of products with oils and shea butter. And this time of year, especially, it's a little warm here in Atlanta today, but the going from cold to warm, I looked down today and I had this little cut on my hand. I'm like, what is that? Is that old lady skin? But what I realized is my hand was just dry. And you know how, so when that happens, I do reach for my Shayla Glow shea butter, because she has a multi-use butter. She uses, this one's called Mango Madness, and it smells so good.
I can't wait to order.
Right? Yes. It's in the show notes. You can, there'll be a link and you can go check out all her products, and she's phenomenal. So, and all her products are. And so thank you, Shannon and Shayla Glow, for supporting our show. And thank you for the awesomeness that you're putting out in the world, because she is helping folks glow from head to toe.
Inside and out.
Right? Yeah, she really does. And that's her mission, is a wellness. And also teaching other people how to take care of themselves. Because part of her story is about, she lost her mom young because of cancer. And then how do you do that? Like, how do you learn about self-care? How do you learn about wellness? And also the whole why are we losing women too young? And that we've got to focus on all the dimensions of wellness, and be taking care of ourselves. And so speaking of that, we often like to talk, LaTanya, about our favorite wellness practices. So I know you are a busy entrepreneur and have a lot of things happening over in your world. How do you take care of yourself?
So I have like a mix of things that I do, and most of them are free because I like free things, but I definitely I like to meditate. That's something that I do when I'm in overwhelm, or even when I'm not, just to set the intentions for my day. Meditations are big, affirmations are big. I love to listen to music. I love to dance, even though I'm not a dancer and I cannot dance, but I love to move my body.
Okay, wait, cancel that thought. I saw you dance, my friend.
You saw me move my shoulders.
I saw you dancing in. That's dancing. You were moving.
Christine, I tell my friends, like, I'll sit and move my shoulders, and I'll stand and just move my feet. I don't do them both at the same time. Both? We don't do the whole thing.
Can I tell you my secret on that?
Yes.
My husband's a huge dancer. He goes to Zumba. Ooh. I would have years ago told you I was uncoordinated and could not dance. I went with him to start, like, because it was our date. We would go because he loved to dance. And I found the more you do it, it's like body pattern, like, right? So the first couple of times you go, it's so awkward and you're going left and the whole other class is going right. And you're just like, okay, I'm new at this. But you do it and the repetition, like it just gets in your body. And so it's like, find a class like that where you can follow somebody, or a YouTube video if you don't want to do it in class, and just do it and get through the awkward part of it where your brain and your body's not talking to each other. And then you're like then all bets are off. Because then we would dance together in class and people would be like, oh, now that was pre-pandemic in all full transparency, because I have not been doing the group dance classes. And so I probably have to restart at 0, but
well, you get to start over. That's okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind, because I feel like, getting out of that awkward stage, and I just don't push myself enough to give that
right.
time to kind of fizzle out. But yeah.
Well, I will tell you, for my husband and I, and y'all, I'm trained as a clinical social worker and therapist, so no dissing therapy at all, because I believe in therapy.
Absolutely.
But us dancing together is as effective, if not more effective often, than our therapy sessions, because the body neurons and the mirroring of each other and the patterning with each other and being in, like, it just works. And so we often, if we're struggling, we go dancing together. So
that's beautiful. Okay, my husband's super introverted, so I want to take him to come play, because I just discovered all this when we met. And so I'm just like, I got to get him out of that. He's in the shell worse than me, but I'll do it even if I look like a fool. But he just, so that's fascinating.
It's getting out of that, it's getting out of our comfort zones. Like Cecile often talks about that, like your comfort zone, your learning zone, your danger zone. Like we don't want people in their danger zone, but you want to be in the learning zone, which often in our bodies feels uncomfortable. Like it feels like, I'm going to die. Are you really?
Yeah.
Is there a bear?
But did you die? Yeah. Yeah. Well, running is my thing like that. When you say with your husband dance, running was like my therapy when I first started getting out of depression, was like, just go for a run. Like I clear my mind. Like when I'm running is like the only time I find myself not thinking about anything. And I love that. And I like to listen to ballads when I run, like some nice Whitney Houston. I don't listen to fast music. I listen to something like slow and lovely, which might be weird, but that's my thing.
I love that. Thank you for naming that, because everybody thinks you have to do it a certain way, right? And I don't like those fast, there's some of those songs that are just like, and I don't work out well to those either.
It makes me anxious. I feel like that calms my mind. And so
look who popped into our comments, who's supposed to be in recovery. Are you really gonna die? It's an important question to ask. Hello, my friend Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. I can't wait to meet you.
We miss you, and I'm so glad you're listening today, my friend. We have called your name several times, and I don't know if you were on for the impromptu Shalo Glow commercial, but it has happened, and Shalo Glow has been applied.
Yes. to all cracks and crevices, right?
Absolutely. We have just been talking, Shannon, and our listeners, we have been talking about last season and the 8 dimensions of wellness, and how we celebrated, Shannon, our 1-year anniversary and our 50 shows, and today is show number 56. And yes, glow with Shalo Glow from head to toe. I said it, didn't I?
She did. She definitely did.
Yeah. I love it. And we're about to wrap up. So Shannon, I'm glad that you are here with us, because you know how we wrap up the show. We often talk about our hashtag wisdom in action. So when we think about this, LaTanya, wait, before we get there, I'm going to pause this for just a second. Do you have anything else you want to say about your upcoming summit? Because it is happening right now, right?
It's happening. And I just want to say hashtag do you remember you? And Christine will post that link below so you can go and check it out. It is a free online event. So you can watch the videos at your leisure. No rush, no pressure.
I love that. And y'all, you can find out secrets to rediscovering who you are, so you can ditch the labels, rewrite your story, and make yourself a priority. Like these speakers she has lined up, you're going to love them. So some of them have been guests on the Women Connected in Wisdom show. Some of them will be future guests because we're getting connected. So go check them out. I want to read a few things about who this is for. So this is for women who feel like there just isn't enough time in your day to do something for yourself. This is for women who believe at one point or another that taking care of everyone else first was a badge of honor and the only way. Woo! I got to read that one again because that's an old story of mine. But boy, even as I said it, I was like, what? Okay.
I know.
This is for the women who believed at one point or another that taking care of everyone else first was a badge of honor or the only way. I'm going to take a deep breath on that one. Whew. This is for the women who will take their power back and show up for themselves because they know that when they show up for them, they inevitably improve the quality of all their relationships.
Yes.
Woo!
Facts.
Right? So true. I love it. So Shannon is putting some hashtags in our comments. Hashtag glow with Shaylo glow. Hashtag maintaining wellness. Yes. And I'm so proud of you, my friend and co-host, for taking care of yourself today. Hashtag making myself a priority. Oh, and then the correction of priority. But
it's supposed to be napping and resting.
Right? I'm really proud that she just popped on for the last 5 minutes of the show because that probably had to be really hard because Wednesday, it is definitely in our bodies to be talking together and being in community together. So your hashtag, you said, LaTanya.
Hashtag do you remember you?
Do you remember you? Yeah, we will put the links to the TeleSummit, how to register for free. We will put all of that in the show notes for our listeners, and we'll put it on our social media. And my hashtag today, what would my hashtag wisdom in action be today? My hashtag would be check in with yourself. Check in with yourself and see how you are in this moment. And do it multiple times a day because, you know, we got a lot going on in our world and it's moving fast.
Oh, yeah.
So, LaTanya, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me today. It was a pleasure. I, of course, missed my dear friend and co-host Shannon, and she will be back with us next week. But I'm so grateful that you were willing to pop on and be a part of the Women Connected in Wisdom.
I'm grateful that we connected. I'm super grateful for you.
And I am also going to put your website in our show notes so folks can connect with you if they want to. And yeah. And so we end every show with this statement. And so I will say thank you and thanks for being here. And I look forward to being in connection with you. And in the meantime, listeners, be well, be wise, and be whole.